All right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. How y'all feeling? Thanks for joining me today and every day. Excuse me, on these here internets. Good to see y'all. We're live on Callin, Rockfin, and on YouTube. Yeah, let's jump into it because we're starting just a touch late today. Before we get into it, I'll let you know that a really good way to support the show is most direct and bestest ways to support the show are Venmo at Kevin Sandblum, Cash App at Red Llama Music, or buymeacoffee.com/BlackBurnNews. And to all the supporters, I appreciate you. Also, super chats are greatly appreciated. Also, Rockfin Super Rays, greatly appreciated. Thank y'all. All right. We're going to start with Christine Anderson. And this, you can apply this to, this doesn't necessarily have to do with just one particular subject. She says you cannot comply your way out of tyranny. This is something to keep in mind. Whatever is your concern around the world, whether it be climate change, whether it be tracking and tracing, authoritarian, technocratic incursions, mandates, whatever it might be. Let's listen to Christine Anderson. As soon as I can get it together. Get it together.
I'm really imploring the people and all the peoples around the world, for God's sake, stop giving your democratically elected governments the benefit of the doubt. They are not deserving of that. They are not. Stop rationalizing whatever your government is doing. Stop rationalizing and come up with some good intentions. They have no good intentions. Never. As I said before, in the entire history of mankind, there has never been a political elite concerned about the well-being of regular people. And it isn't any different now. Why should it? Stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because I can tell you, you cannot comply your way out of a tyranny. It is impossible.
Ooh. I want to just stop right there because that is so perfect. You can't comply your way out of you can't, jump through the hoops in order to get, well, that's, again, you're dealing with people who are psychopathic / narcissists who keep moving the goalposts, right? Well, if you just do this, then everything will be fine. If you just do this, we'll treat you a little better. You can apply that to a lot of things. How your government treats you, maybe relationships. Well, if you do this thing that I insist that you do, then everything's going to get better. And you go, okay, and then it doesn't get better, right? Yeah, no, don't do that. You cannot do that. You have to set your boundaries and be your own person. All right.
Trying to do so, you will only feed a gigantic alligator in the hopes of being eaten last. But guess what? Your turn will come, and then you will be the one swallowed up. I also have to ask the people, end your silence. Speak up. For God's sake, stop complying. Start rebelling. They're out to get you if you do not resist. I would also urge you to stop voting for those who inflict this psychological abuse on you, who mock you for their own good. In order to deal with this unfree world, to defy this unfree world, I have decided to become so absolutely free that my very existence is an act of rebellion. And that's what we all need to do.
All right, good thoughts. Good thoughts there from Christine Anderson. The context, Poppy, is tyranny, in whatever shape or form that might present itself, but mainly from the people in charge. But I just wanted, the woman is Christine Anderson, who she is a member of Parliament, of the EU Parliament. She's talking about tyranny. I don't know. To the people who are wondering what the context is, she said tyranny. You cannot comply your way out of tyranny. So in whatever ways that they're trying to control you or control the situation or control, the collapse, control, what, and whatever forms that they want to tell you that, their narrative is the one that you should follow. Their path is the one that you should follow in order to, have everything be okay. She's saying that's, they don't have your best interest in mind and act accordingly. I think that's pretty logical. I don't know. But anyways, hopefully that cleared it up for y'all. Sustainabilities are us. Yes, indeed. Going south. Sustainability, am I right? Am I right? All right. We're going to move on. Yes, yin yang, the clue is in the name. Government, meant to govern. Unfortunately, they don't. Not for the sake of the people, only for their own sake. Good comment. Definitely. All right. Let's continue. Oh, we got a bell. We got a ding-a-ling, ding, ding, ding. Alrighty. From Steve Austin, Bionic Man. China fossil fuel mega boom. Yes, that's right. China just set a new record for fossil fuel use in 2023. They are not using solar to replace, but to add to their energy mix. And what is that known? Anybody? What's that known as? Where increased efficiency doesn't lower the use of resources, it actually raises it. What is that called again? I think it's called Jevons paradox, which is the case with how renewable energy is working out so far. Not that it's a bad idea, not that it's not super cool. Not that it might be a good idea for people, right, on an individual personal level. I think somebody made a comment the other day. I was talking about expanding the energy grid for renewable energy, and somebody said, well, if you have your own batteries and solar panels, which is fine, but how many millions of homes are there? How many batteries would we need? Is it the same amount of energy or more to produce batteries enough for every single home to have several batteries plus solar panels? I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, this is what's happening. They have gotten a solar mega boom. China installed 3 times solar capacity in Q1 than in the same period in 2022. China is on track to add more solar in 2023 than the entire cumulative total in the U.S. Yeah, they've added a lot of solar. Daisy McCracken says we're all using solar and wind to add because of growth, and we're mostly all having record fossil fuel use. And Steve says yes, and in the U.S. at least, we're mainly wasting the record emissions on stuff. Okay. Hold on. I'm just going to look at this thread. Anyways. Oh, let's see. Going south, is that question for me? I think. Or no, you're talking about. All right. Or no, are you talking to me? I don't know. Let's keep going. Spain's infrastructure, it's their turn to get a bashing. As predicted, flash flooding causing significant problems. Andalusia this afternoon. So Spain was having a real problem with very high heat and drought and being very dry, getting very dry. And now the rains and floods, kind of a copycat of Italy, right? What's happening in Italy? They were in a severe drought, and they were looking at having issues with growing food because of the drought, and then all of a sudden the rains came and they got wiped. All right. I don't know. I saw this. Hold on one second. Okay. Just needed a little verification. France bans short haul flights to cut carbon emissions. Did y'all see this? France bans short haul flights to cut carbon emissions. I mean, in theory, I like it. Ban domestic short haul flights where train alternatives exist in a bid to cut carbon emissions. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. I don't see how this particular move, I don't know who would have a problem with this other than the airlines. Or the fossil fuel industries. I don't know. But I mean, this makes a lot of sense. Although I'm sure there are people that will say, like, well, people are going to lose, what about jobs? Jobs. What about people are going to lose their jobs because of this or something like that? I don't know. The law came into force 2 years ago after lawmakers. Oh, two years after lawmakers had voted to end routes where the same journey could be made by train in under 2.5 hours. I mean, for real. I mean, and I wouldn't be, if only we had trains in the U.S., like from, say, L.A. to San Francisco or L.A. to Vegas, right? And it is ridiculous to take a plane to Vegas, but people do it all the time. It's ridiculous to take a plane to Vegas. It's silly. But people do it all the time. But we could have a high-speed train that links, LA to Vegas in, an hour or an hour and a half or something. And I even think taking a plane to San Francisco is somewhat silly too. And people do it all the time. It's a little bit longer of a drive, but not that much longer. Anyways, those are just my personal thoughts. The ban all but rules out air travel between Paris and cities including Nantes, Lyon, and Bordeaux, while connecting flights are unaffected. Critics have described the latest measures as symbolic bans. And I saw somebody saying that. This wasn't really, it was kind of toothless, this move. It didn't do a lot. Lawrence Donciel, interim head of industry group Airlines for Europe, told the AFP news agency that banning these trips will only have a minimal effect on CO2 output. He added that governments should instead support real and significant solutions to the issue. Airlines around the world have been severely hit by the coronavirus pandemic, blah, blah, blah. French government had faced calls to introduce even stricter rules. France's Citizens Convention on Climate. Citizens Convention on Climate, you say? That's interesting. Which was created by President Emmanuel Macron in 2019 and included 150 members of the public, had proposed scrapping plane journeys where train journeys of under 4 hours existed. But this was reduced to 2.5 hours after objections from some regions, as well as the airline Air France KLM. Of course. They said under 4 hours, and they're like, how about half of that? How about half? Does that work? Well, it's a lot less significant if it's only 2.5 hours. Anyways. French consumer group UFC Choisir had earlier called on lawmakers to retain the 4-hour limit. On average, the plane emits 77 times more CO2 per passenger than the train on these routes, even though the train is cheaper and the time loss is limited to 40 minutes. I mean, it's something. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's something. But I'm into stuff like this. Also in France, I believe, I don't know if it's still true, but in Paris, I think they still ban cars on certain days, or in certain parts of Paris. I might be wrong on that. There was a time when they had banned cars on certain days in Paris, and I was like, why not? Why not all the time? Why not go ahead and just do it all the time? And I'm with doing that in many places. I know for a lot of people that would be like very inconvenient, but it's okay. We're going to make it. Promise. You are going to live. Wah. Don't get to drive everywhere I want to drive. Wah. You're going to make it. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I mean, the whole thing about banning nitrogen use on farms. I know that's a big story for people. The thing is that the nitrogen emissions are an actual problem, right? They're an actual problem. Even James Corbett, big old fat climate denier, James Corbett, even he said, yeah, nitrogen emissions are actually a problem. I don't know if kicking small farmers off their land is an answer. And I agree with that. I don't know if kicking small farmers off their land is the answer necessarily. But you have to recognize that the problem exists, and you got to do something about it, don't you? Don't you? Emissions are a thing that are bad. It's a problem that exists, whether they come from the back of a boat or a plane or a car or a truck. This is a problem. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. I also see people talking about how much water is diverted from the Colorado River to support like the beef industry or ag industry. And yeah, you can, yeah, those are problems. And either one or both of those things should be addressed. But what about the idea that more people demanding more stuff has gotten us to this place, and if we continue to add more people demanding more stuff, that we're probably going to get to an even worse place. So what should we do about that? I mean, it's easy to point finger. Oh, the cattle industry, that's a beef industry. Stop eating meat and don't do that. And but the ag industry uses a bunch of fertilizers and fossil fuel based products, and it also has been known to be bad for the land as well. Isn't the problem one of scale? And not necessarily pointing a finger at this particular industry is the worst industry. We've got to tackle this industry. These are the culprits. All right, let's keep going. There is a typhoon set to hit Guam, the U.S. territory of Guam. Climate change at work in real time. U.S. territory. This is from Poppy. U.S. territory Guam in the path of rapidly intensifying super typhoon Mawar. Country in lockdown. Devastation expected. Guam braces for direct hit from intensifying powerful super typhoon Mawar. Super typhoon Mawar to hit Guam, the strongest storm in at least 2 decades. This is going to be catastrophic. I hate these things that they do at the top of these pages. Please move. The National Weather Service office in Guam didn't mince words when it came to providing potentially life-saving updates to those on the island. We are looking at the high potential for a direct hit and passage of a super typhoon on Guam. This will be the first time in many years. This will be a benchmark storm that many folks on the island have not yet experienced. How strong is Super Typhoon Mawar? Had maximum sustained winds of 155 miles per hour, or as strong as a Category 4. It's likely to have winds of 160 miles per hour, the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane. In addition, forecasters expect Mawar to have wind gusts approaching 200 miles per hour. Forecasters said a storm surge of 6 to 10 feet above normal high tide is expected as Mawar moves closer. That is 6 to 10 feet. That's a wall of water that you definitely want to avoid. The island has already experienced tropical force winds, and the NWS warned that those winds will only continue to get stronger. All right. I don't know with my. All right. Sorry, I lost the feed there for a second. Yeah, the storm surge is no joke. Don't want nothing to do with it. No, no, no. Cool. Give me 1 sec. Colin, I'm going to mute you for one moment. All right, we're back. Let's see. We're going to move on. The human microbiome is going extinct, scientists say. Anybody see this one? This sounds kind of scary. The human microbiome is going extinct, scientists say. The end will be devastating. Researchers say the human microbiome that lives in your gut is now endangered. The loss of bacteria and microorganisms reduces your chance at a healthy life. You're the one killing off your own microbiome. The human microbiome is endangered, and that's not a good thing for your health or the health of the rest of the world. A new documentary, The Invisible Extinction, highlights how the human microbiome, also known as the bacteria and microorganisms living within the human body, most prevalent in the gut, is on the verge of extinction, and it's all your fault. In a discussion with People, two researchers behind the doc, Martin Glacier and Gloria Dominguez Bello, say the human microbiome is essential for us to digest food, make vitamins, and train our immune systems. When we eat, Blazer tells People, we are nourishing both our human cells and also our microbial cells. The slow death of the human microbiome is thanks to our modern way of life. We use antibiotics to kill off bad bacteria. But antibiotics kill off plenty of the good stuff too. Blazer says the more antibiotics given to a child, the more likely they are to develop a range of illnesses. Blazer adds that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates about 1/3 of antibiotic prescriptions are unnecessary, leading to their overuse. Really? Antibiotics are unnecessary. Many of them are being overused. I wonder what else is unnecessary and might be overused. Anybody? The researchers want better options for the antibiotic issue, both with improved testing to see if a bacterial infection is really in play, and by developing new antibiotics that don't have the collateral damage that are killing every bacterium inside. We are making a complete mess of biodiversity, including says microbes are essential in every ecosystem, not only in humans or animals or plants, but also in the oceans. The whole thing is linked together. Are you saying it's connected? Linked together by impact of human activities. What? We need to preserve microbes because they really modulate functions of Earth. They modulate the climate. They modulate everything. They modulate our own gene expression. The human microbiome is a big deal. Let's not kill it. Pretty far down the road. Far down the road we are. Man, a few days ago I switched on silencing all phone calls from numbers that were not recognized, and let me tell you how much my life has been improved by that. If you have also noticed a dearth of phone calls during the show, that's one of the reasons. People have a lot more allergies these days than I remember. Allergies. Well, and also everybody's a hypochondriac. We live in a world where it's, like really hip to be hypochondriac. I've got a condition. Sorry to people that have conditions, but some people have conditions. But I mean, everybody wants to claim a condition because, something. I don't know. People are a little overzealous with claiming a condition, having to go to the doctor for their condition all the time. Some people have conditions, and you should take that seriously. This is not my dismissal of all conditions, okay? Thanks. Okay. Did you all hear about the somebody's trying to make a connection, I guess, between a few things that are happening. In I don't know, in the world, I guess. 30 tons of explosives are missing. Satellite phones have been passed out to the Senate members. Have you guys heard about this one? Apparently there's a prediction of the internet going down. What are they planning? Says this hour one, I guess, or 0 hour one. These are true stories. What is going on? I don't know. Why are they passing out phones to Senate members mysteriously? Like, hey guys, we think there's something coming our way. I think you need the satellite phone. Here, take this satellite phone. No, don't worry about it. Luke Rudowski says, WTF is going on here? Cyber Polygon, anyone? 50 U.S. senators have been issued satellite phones for emergency communication. Which ones, though? That's what I'm curious about. Are they all Democrats? Are they all Republican? Or is it half and half? Are they select? God, I hate this thing. All right. Senators issued satellite phones offered demonstrations on upgraded security devices. Amid growing concerns of security risks to members of Congress, more than 50 senators have been issued satellite phones for emergency communication. People familiar with the measure told CBS News. The devices are part of a series of new security measures because they're in danger, being offered to senators by the Senate Sergeant at Arms who took over shortly after the assault on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. The satellite phone technology has been offered to all 100 senators. CBS News has learned that at least 50 have accepted the phones, with Senate administrative staff recommending senators keep in close proximity during their travels. All right. Karen Gibson, Senate Sergeant at Arms, said satellite communication is being deployed to ensure a redundant and secure means of communicating during a disruptive event. Uh-oh. A Department of Homeland Security advisor said satellite phones are a tool for responding to and coordinating government services in the case of a man-made or natural disaster that wipes out communication. Just in case. Well, what also has happened this has also happened. I don't know if you all heard about this story. Where could it have gone? 30-ton shipment of explosive chemicals. No, USA Today. Missing from railroad car after trip across West. So, people are like, some folks have suggested that, this may turn up somewhere else, maybe blow up somewhere else. A 30-ton shipment of a chemical that can be used as fertilizer or an explosive is missing from a California-bound railroad car after rail officials confirmed it disappeared during a trip across the West. It just disappeared. 30 tons. The rail car, loaded with more than 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate, left Cheyenne, Wyoming on April 12th. A Union Pacific spokesperson said. 2 weeks later, it was found empty at a rail stop in the California Mojave Desert. Anybody see, was it Breaking Bad? Where they got underneath a train that was stopped. They stopped a train and went and stole a bunch of stuff for making meth, right? Anybody remember that episode or a couple of episodes? Where did it go? Who took it? What happened? All very mysterious. Dyno Nobel said the material transported in pellet form in a covered hopper car, similar to those used to ship coal, likely fell from a rail car on the way to a rail siding about 30 miles from Mojave in Kern County. But did they find it somewhere along the train tracks? I wonder. The rail car was sealed when it left the Cheyenne facility, and the seals were still intact when it arrived in Saltdale. The rail car was also observed after departure in the railroad's Cheyenne yard with the seals intact and no sign of any leaks. The initial assessment is that a leak through the bottom gate on the rail car may have developed in transit, according to the company, releasing pellets onto the track over the 2-week trip. So it's just all over the track between Cheyenne and California. Okay. Anyways, it's just an interesting story. Who knows? What does it all mean? Or will it mean anything? Or is it just spread all over the track between Cheyenne and California? We don't know. But it is mysterious, isn't it? I mean, when they say stuff like it was ammonium nitrate as an explosive that was used in the Oklahoma City bombing, right? If there was a hole, they were like, we have a theory that a hole in the bottom of the car opened up, but they didn't act, they have a theory, but I think it's pretty easy to look under the car and see if there, is the gate open? Is there a hole there? You don't have to really think about that one for too long. You can just go like, hey, is there a hole under here? Yup. That's all you need to do is go, yes or no. But the fact that they said it like that, like, we think it could be, I mean, you can see if that's where it came out of. Anyways. It's a little bit of a silly story, don't you think? Let's keep going. These earmuffs get a little painful after a while. XR Money Rebellion. Chaos as shareholders try to storm stage at Shell AGM as part of waves of action inside. Shareholders are demanding some kind of something. Climate protesters sing "Go to Hell, Shell." Okay. More on this People's Health Movement. We stand in solidarity with the People's Health Tribunal and communities on the front line of climate breakdown and deadly fossil fuel extraction. You guys get the idea. We'll look at some storming protesters here. Okay. That is somewhat, that is pandemonium. John D, good point. Given the high price of gas, there's probably a market for stolen fertilizer. That's true. I also, that was one of my first thoughts. Was that maybe, maybe some enterprising people got in there and got the fertilizer because they knew they could probably resell it for, it's very valuable. Yeah. And a little bit RFK talking about how he likes Medicare for all. Although there's a little bit of a weird answer, but we'll listen to this.
As you know, every other developed nation in the world has universal health care. Do you support universal health care through a Medicare for all program or something similar?
I would say my highest ambition would be to have a single payer program, which, with people who want to have private programs can go ahead and do that, but to have a single payer program that is available to everybody. I don't know how politically realistic that is, but, if you ask me, if I were designing the system from the beginning, that's what I would do.
As you...
I found that a little bit weird that he said, I don't know how politically feasible that is. I mean, or maybe he's just being, maybe he just understands the truth of it, that it's very politically difficult. RFK also outlining or pointing out, I find this a very intriguing statement, saying, wishing for the dismantling of the military-industrial complex. Those are pretty strong words. Yeah, from a presidential hopeful. Take apart the military-industrial complex. Well, yeah, I want to do that. Is he actually going to do that? I don't know. I don't know if he's actually going to do that, but I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to take apart the military-industrial complex and the intelligence agencies. All of them. They all must go. They all need to be, scattered to the wind, as JFK wanted to do years ago. He needs to do it. Somebody needs to do it. Economist Jeffrey Sachs quantifies America's tragic addiction to war. Imagine what our country will be when we shake that addiction, take apart the military-industrial complex, and bring those resources home. Again, will he do it? Judy Truitt says, can he do that is the question. You're right. You're right. You know, it's hard not to feel hopeful, also hard to feel hopeful at the same time. You know, there's a Ukrainian kill list of people that don't like what people, certain people have to say about the war. That Jimmy Dore was added to it. Do y'all know that? I might be getting in dangerous territory. Maybe I need to hop off and get on Rockfront for the last 5 minutes of the show. I don't know. We'll just go. We'll tread lightly here. Anyways, Jimmy Dore has been added to this Ukrainian kill list, and as well as Aaron Mate and Anya Parampil. What could they have done to garner the ire of the Ukrainians? I wonder. Biden proposes $1 trillion social spending cuts right after, I think we covered this already, right after announcing more money for Ukraine. So there's that. And then people wonder why he's not so popular. He announced $375 million more for the war in Ukraine. Proposes $1 trillion in social spending cuts. And as you know, right on cue, as predicted by me and several other people, that there would come a time in the Biden administration when, the Republicans were going to be like, all right, how about cutting Medicare and Social Security? And Biden would be like, man, my hands were tied, Jack. I had to give them what they wanted. We couldn't do anything. It was a debt ceiling. Something. When Joe Biden, through his entire political career, if you've been paying attention, if you don't have historical amnesia, through his entire political career has said the words over and over and over, we got to cut everything in the budget. That includes Social Security and Medicare. We've got to cut it. He's been saying that his entire career for decades and decades and decades. Then for, 10 months said Medicare for all, during the Democratic primary. I mean, I don't know that people really believed him, but I don't know. People wrote really drippy articles about him being like a FDR type or something like that, about how progressive he might be. And then the Republicans said he might actually be communist because he might even impose some kind of Medicare for all, and that's communism or something, super smart. Anyways, right on cue, Biden is going to get his wish, his 40-year-long wish of cutting Social Security and Medicare. And he only needed politically illiterate Democrats to vote for him to get it done. And they did it. They were like, sure, we love you, Joe Biden. Social spending as a percentage of GDP has declined sharply since 2011. Since when? 2011, when the last Democratic administration headed by who? Barack Obama, and who? Joe Biden, followed its multi-trillion-dollar bailout of the banks After the financial crash of 2008, with the Bipartisan Budget Control Act of 2011, that measure imposed a decade-long cap on discretionary spending, sharply reducing in real terms government outlays for education, healthcare, and other vital social needs. So they put a cap on all that. Who? The Democrats. Anyways, in his remarks on Sunday, Biden provided a glimpse of the scale of parasitism and plunder of the economy by the financial aristocracy. He noted that 55 U.S. corporations that made $400 billion last year paid zero in taxes. He added that billionaires in the U.S. pay an average tax of 8%. He asserted that the hiring of IRS agents and enforcement of a 15% corporate minimum tax would generate $400 billion in additional federal revenue. In fact, as Biden well knows, nothing will be done to rein in these swindlers. He raises the issue in an attempt to cover his attack on the working class with a fraudulent veneer of equal sacrifice. The New York Times reported Sunday that Biden had agreed to a cap on non-defense discretionary spending for the next 2 years, using 2023 as the baseline. So, of course, the military budget can go up, but nothing else. While both sides say mandatory entitlement programs, Social Security and Medicare are off the table in the current talks, the deliberately stoked crisis on the debt ceiling is the prelude to a ruling class offensive against these core programs. On Sunday, CNN's State of the Union program featured Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, a so-called moderate who advocates tying Social Security to the stock market and essentially privatizing it. Face the Nation hosts Margaret Brennan interviewed Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican of Pennsylvania, and Josh Gottheimer, Democrat of New Jersey, members of the Moderate Problem Solvers Caucus in the House. At one point, Gottheimer alluded to the reform of Social Security and Medicare, saying there are longer-term fiscal issues we have to deal with, and I'd say we should be dealing with those as well, which is what Brian and I proposed. Later in the interview, Fitzpatrick was more specific, dismissing the discussion between McCarthy and Biden on non-defense discretionary spending as essentially a sideshow. Referring to entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare, he said that's 75% of our budget, and that's where the financial solvency needs to be addressed by both revenue and expenses. Right. I don't see in this article where Biden actually proposes $1 trillion of a cut. Hold on. Military spending has exploded. Last year, the Biden administration allocated $113 billion for war in Ukraine and enacted a record $1 trillion defense budget. The current debt ceiling budget discussions between the Democrats and Republicans are part of a conspiracy by the American ruling class to make the working class pay for a war that has little popular support and threatens to trigger a nuclear holocaust. All right. Well, we'll see how this plays out. Guys, man, there were so many more things I wanted to play for you and cover for you today. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring back a bunch of stories that I didn't have time for. Maybe tomorrow I'll aggregate a bunch of things that I've missed over the last week. But I am out of time for this show. Thank you guys for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Thanks for hanging out every day with me on these internets. And Rockfinners, appreciate you. Thanks for hanging in there. Also, Callin people, thanks for hanging out with me on Callin. President Brown Pants in Denver. I don't know what this link is about. I'm a little afraid to open it. No. 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 Say it ain't so. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And until next time, peace.